two of our JTV sports commentators, Pat O'Dowd and Dan Gallagher. Pat, finally on the show. Dan, second time. Hello. Hey, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Oh, I love doing it.
Feels good to be here. I've watched and I've waited, and I just am so excited that I finally got the invitation.
Is that why you're nervous?
I'm nervous. Are you really nervous?
No.
No? Okay. I know you're not nervous.
Yes, I
been
am.
here once before. So, of course, high school football playoffs. We just wrapped that up last Friday. We were at Western. It was the score that I think we expected coming in. It's 56-0 over Penfield. But couple quick takeaways from me from that game. Western, that was good for them before the playoffs, and they get prepared. And it was senior night too, so it was cool to see. I believe 4 or 5 different Panthers score touchdowns too.
Yeah, their offense is pretty potent. I think they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. I'm just really, my takeaway was how in the heck did this team lose with 3 games?
Yeah, I said the same thing.
Yeah.
So they will take on Hazlitt in the first round. Hazlitt just beat them in Parma 21-18 a couple weeks ago, but now Hazlitt's without their star running back. So we were talking about it on our picks. I think that's going to be different now, and how Hazlitt's offense, can Western take advantage of that and pull off a game here on the road?
You know how for a while after like Barry Sanders era, running backs were like number 1 picks and all that. Now they're not anymore. So one running back does not make a team. So if you have that offensive line there, I got it in already. The offensive line is, if they're going to open up a hole for, maybe that's why he was the great running back. And that brings up another.
This kid was all world though. He's one of the top recruits.
He had over 30
country.
Division.
So if the game was 21-18,
yeah,
and he got hurt late in the fourth quarter, to me he's worth more than 3 points being gone. I'm gonna go. I mean, I'm a homer. My kids go to Western. I love the program. I'm a converted from a Titan to a Panther.
Yep.
But I'm going all day on the Panthers.
Well, look what happened to Tom Brady. He got his chance because
right.
Bledsoe got hurt.
Right.
So you're saying there's an all-world running back in Hazlitt that's just been waiting, and now's his chance.
Could be.
The next.
Well, how did he do Friday? The new running back. Any idea?
I'm not sure, but he got hurt.
If I was better at my job, I would have researched that.
But Western, no, that it is. They are a really good team, and for them, to have 3 losses in the regular season just shows how tough the conference is too. Because if they pull it off against Hazlitt, they'll play either Harbor Creek or Hastings at some point again. 2 other losses that they had. So
tough. I'm giving them 1 win, and they're going to have to play just about a perfect game to beat either Hazlitt or Hastings or Harbor Creek, in my opinion.
Right. You mentioned the offensive line. Of course, I know that's your thing, and that was a new addition, too, to our broadcast this year, was the Beef Brigade from Prime Cuts, always shouting out the linemen. So I'm sure that's got to be probably one of your favorite parts of this season, right? The addition.
Oh, it's a favorite part of, yeah, it is one of the favorite parts, but I always like to talk about the unsung heroes that don't get the credit for that huge hole.
Is it if you played line?
Oh, no, I was a running back.
So is it just maybe your size?
I
relate now that
I figured it out.
You've grown into the body of a lineman.
I have.
So you relate to him very well.
Twice as big, Pat, as I was 138 pounds as a running back as a senior in high school. Lake Fenton High School, by the way, if anyone was asking.
Compliments to your wife, because she obviously is an incredible chef and cook.
Yeah.
Do we have footage anywhere of this from Lake Fenton, Dan Gallagher and?
Yeah, but it was back in the era where there was no talkies. There was no volume.
What year did you graduate?
1979, but it would have been the 78 season. And it was, when did the playoffs start? That was like right around there.
Yeah, because before that, it was just like the rankings, I think.
Yeah.
Number 1 and 2.
Yeah, there was nothing.
I don't think it started till the 90s, I want to say.
No,
they expanded in the 90s. But the playoffs, there was playoff. It had to have been right about that time, because Lumen Christi had a couple of 9-0 teams that didn't get into the playoffs.
We were 8-1.
And I remember hearing the complaints and everything.
Yeah.
So
Well, and that kind of ties into now Grass Lake. They didn't get in the playoffs. They're 6-3. They beat Leslie, obviously the best, besides Lumen, the best team in the area. They only lost to Napoleon by 4, another playoff team. By the way, they have a tough game, Hudson, this week, Napoleon.
that's going to be tough. Yeah.
So we'll get into the other playoff games coming up. But Grass Lake, I mean, they got killed by Hanover, but besides that, they beat Leslie. They barely lost to Michigan Center. So they're, a quality playoff team, should be. Didn't get in at 6-3. They were still 2 or 3 teams out from the last.
Yeah.
So is that the athletic director then just has to go back and schedule up a little bit? Or,
Yeah.
there's probably a couple different philosophies there. But
and
it's points generated, right?
Right. And that's been a big, topic of discussion so far this week around, Grass Lake is how do we kind of change that? You know what I mean? Otherwise, is Grass Lake going to have to go 9-0 every year now to make the playoffs? And part of their problem is can't really help it either, is the fact, though, that some of the schools in their conference, though, are like Division 7 or 8, Vandercook, East Jackson, Napoleon. And that's the hard part with Grass Lake coming up to 6 this year, is that no school in the Cascades besides Center or Columbia is 6, and they're not playoff teams. So it's been tough for Grass Lake, and they've, I totally get it, but it's like, what do you do? I mean, you can't really do much either.
Yeah,
because they can't just pick up and move conferences.
No,
so
those conference moves, I think, happen a couple of years in advance because there's so much planning the athletic director has to do on travel and everything else.
right,
And it was kind of, I don't want to say a down year in the Cascades, but they didn't get a lot of help from some of the, like you mentioned, the size of the school matters, but so too does the record of the opponent, right?
right.
So if you've got quality wins, I guess. So it kind of hurt them to have a down year in the conference.
So getting back to the points, if you lose a game to a small school or you lose a game to a big school, you'll get more points by losing the game to the big school.
Right. Yep.
Yeah.
Win or
What
lose.
the record is, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So the little school, if they have a great record, you'll get more points too. So apparently at J High, they played a lot of really good teams.
Right. Well, but they're also Division 3, J High. So, but they started out 4-0, finished 4-5, and was 32nd, the very, very last team to still make it in the playoffs at 4-5. And even in Division 3, there were a couple other non-local teams that were 3-6 and got in the playoffs.
So the old way at 6 in your end, that they wouldn't have helped them.
Right. Well, Grass Lake would have
Grass
got
Lake
in.
would have
then.
been.
No, I'm
Six.
talking J High.
Oh, J High.
J-High, probably
Right.
not. I didn't look down the Division 3, like 33, 34, 35. I didn't see if there was any 6-win teams or anybody that just
I bet
based
there
on
was.
points didn't get in.
I bet there was.
But Jackson plays a tough conference, tough schedule, and they're getting more points because they're playing some teams that are in Division 2 and Division 1.
Well, we saw, me and you had the Chelsea game against Jackson High. Chelsea might, if Hazlitt beats Western, you'll get a Hazlitt-Chelsea second-round matchup at Chelsea, which I think would be a really good matchup. And Chelsea has played a hell of a season so far, and especially their starting quarterback as a freshman. But yeah, it's a tough conference for Jackson. But I will say 2 or 3 of those losses were by 1 possession, and the game was right there. It had one bad loss to Ypsi Community after they were 4-0, and they lost by 7, and they were up at halftime, and then a tough loss to Adrian by 3, and then you get stomped by Chelsea, and then lose again in the last 2 weeks. So, I think no losing record team ever, to me, not just in Jackson, but just in general. I don't think a team 4-5 to me should be in any playoff.
I think I would agree with that. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that seems to be common sense.
I
right?
liked it. I liked
A
it.
losing record.
The
But
6 and in one. I liked it.
I root for the underdog, though, and now Jackson High finds themselves in that underdog role.
Right.
And they have an opportunity to right the ship this week. We always say it. Going into the playoffs, should throw the records out. All right, so get rid of those.
It's a new year, 0-0.
Yeah, get rid of the 5 losses. I mean, think about what that'll do for the program if somehow, some way, and it's probably not likely, but if they're able to go up to Mason and beat them, what an amazing accomplishment. I mean, those kids got to be focused in and locked in. I'm sure that's what Coach Parker is telling them all week. Forget the last 5 weeks.
Right.
Hard to do, but
Right.
we got a chance here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you lose a game by less than a touchdown, it's usually the coach's fault.
Well,
It's coaching. And if you lose by more than that, it's you just got beat. But coaches have that kind of effect on a game where we wouldn't think they do, but they really do.
Well, 2 of the last 5 losses for Jackson were to Ypsi Community by 7. Ypsi Community's at the bottom of the SEC. Not a very good loss, on paper for Jackson. And then a tough loss by 3 to Adrian, too. Adrian, can't remember if they just made it in the playoffs or not. But like you said, though, it comes down to those 2 losses. And that, they still made the playoffs, but it would have had a better draw had those 2 wins would have happened. A couple other playoff games, Lumen hosting another 4 and 5 team that got in. Dearborn Heights, Robichaud, Lumen, of course, now in D6. They were D7 last couple years. Last time they were in D6, 3-peat. So I don't see much changing.
again.
So
Well, they're going for the 3-peat. I mean, they won Division 7, so this would be their 3rd consecutive
right.
state championship. They played Robichaud, I think, one of the years in one of those runs and beat them, if I remember right.
But I don't expect that, anything different to change. We'll be back, I think, at Ford Field Thanksgiving weekend. Watch Lumen Christi again. The way that they've played after they lost to Notre Dame, they've been unbelievable since then. They've been on a tear. We saw the Gaylord game, and of course, that was the only team that beat Lumen Christi last year, and they came down, and I thought it was a decent game, probably till about halfway through the 3rd quarter, but I thought Gaylord came down, played exceptional. They made some big plays and beat the coverage of the Lumen defense.
That was a big team, Gaylord. Did you watch that game? 2 and 5 coming in, and they didn't score. Listen to this, Dan. This is the most interesting stat I've seen all season. Yeah. Gaylord didn't score a point in their first 4 games. So you're thinking going into that game, running clock, super clock, Lumen Christi.
Right.
And when Gaylord came out onto the field for pregame, you just got a sense that they're better than their record. They were big, they were fast, and they stayed with Lumen Christi all of the first 2.5 quarters. But no points.
Wow.
4 games. And I asked the coach about it on the field, or well, actually Josh did, and then Josh told me 8 of their first 13 passes were intercepted. So, yeah, Gaylord, just one of them weird, wonky seasons, but they're going to be good next year.
Wow.
Yeah. Back to Napoleon. Tough opponent this week, 8-1 Hudson. Now, Hudson, of course, at Hudson, we know that's it's basically, all holy grail of high school football in that area, going down to Hudson's Field and playing that team and that style of offense. That's going to be the quickest game of the year, by the way.
Oh,
Napoleon Hudson.
Oh, no passing at all.
Have you watched a game at Hudson?
No.
We should go down there. We should take a road trip.
Josh Brigette and Adam will be down at Hudson.
Maybe they'll let us ride with them if we promise not to fight. Huh? I can be good.
If you don't beat each other up on the way down there.
I want to go by myself.
Okay. If Josh, yeah. I'm going to ask for a ride. Adam, can I get a ride?
Yeah, hop in the Mustang. We'll bring it down there.
Mustang.
But Napoleon had a good start, though. They started 3-3 and they finished 6-3. The way Napoleon was able to turn it around at the end of the year, it's been amazing. And that's a whole different switch style of offense compared to what Napoleon's had the last 3 or 4 years. They've had the talented arm of quarterback and the really fast wide receivers. And now you go to a full house tee if you're Napoleon, something that I didn't expect from them coming into this year. And I think that's what you're going to see in the future now for Napoleon. I mean, clearly it's worked for them. They've rushed almost 400 yards the last 3 or 4 games in a row.
Well, they lost their quarterback, due to, going to college. And then then they lost their all-state hurdler, sprinter.
Yep.
So they didn't really have a passing game after that. So that's what good coaches do.
Great coaching.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he just turned it around, and I bet you they haven't thrown the ball 4 or 6
I think
times.
they've maybe
whole
passed it
season.
one time this year.
And you guys did one of their games together, right?
we
It was
did,
amazing.
Yep, the Napoleon Grass Lake. So
They had the ball probably for 3 quarters, wouldn't you say?
yeah.
And
And even though Grass Lake only had the ball maybe 1/4 total the whole game, it was still a loss 30-26.
yeah.
Wasn't that back and forth? Just
Yeah.
one of
Yeah.
those classic.
Yeah, I think every possession they scored. Napoleon, I'm thinking.
Yeah, every single possession. It was awesome, but they've only passed one time this year. Last time Napoleon Hudson played was the year 2000 in the opening round. Hudson 35-0 in that game. Deep research on that for
That's impressive.
Hudson.
Good play.
But on the show I picked Hudson. They're always just a powerhouse. I mean, it's like they're in D7 now, but before they were in 8. They won the state championship in 2021 in Division 8. And they're the Lumen Christi, I think, of that division. I mean, no team is going to come into Hudson, I think, and not only beat them, but beat them good. And the tradition and just everything with Hudson just screams a big win for them. But it's been a great season for Napoleon. They're still young athletes, too. That's what's been different.
How do you stop Napoleon? And
Just
the only way you can stop Napoleon is if Napoleon stops himself.
Well, it's an advantage, though. It's an advantage for Hudson because they see that type of offense every day in practice. Essentially, it's clone offense. So
True, yeah.
they're practicing against it. But if you're the coach from Napoleon, your message all week, I think, has to be, that scene from Hoosiers where they walk into the big dome and they're like, oh my gosh. And he says, Ollie, get on my shoulders, measure this. It's 10 feet. I think that's your message this week to Napoleon because it's an intimidating place to play. You can feel the energy. I couldn't imagine not getting nervous, but ultimately it's 100 yards long and 50 yards wide. And we got to do what we've done the last 3 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure that's what the message is.
Just
Who cares about the tradition? The past doesn't matter. We've got 48 minutes of football, and if we play pirate football, we're going to come out of here with a victory. I'm sure that's what he's just hammering
Yeah,
home all week.
they're not predicting a blowout or anything like that, are they?
I don't think it'll be a running. I don't think it'll be a running clock, but I don't think it'll come down to like one possession either.
Well, they were going for it on 4th down the whole game. They
Turnovers, it'll come down to all that stuff. If they can force a massive turnover, just some kind of massive play early that swings the momentum and gives them that confidence, the longer they're close, the closer it'll be, the better chance they have.
Do any of you guys see one of those two teams shocking the world, making a big passing play, even a short play, something to scare people? And
Well, you better have it in your arsenal. You better have, on that 4th and 12, if you're down 6, you better have something that you can do, or even 3rd down before it.
Well, the Bears had it.
right. Well,
You got to have when the game's going to be over.
Did you see the video of that guy taunting the crowd
No,
yeah,
I heard about
right
it.
before the Hail Mary. Yeah.
before they got married?
Yeah.
We're getting off track, but that was one of the craziest things I've seen all
Did you
week.
see that too, Adam?
He's
Do
taunting.
you have it somewhere? I would love to see.
He's taunting the crowd, and then he looks up and he's like, "Oh, we're playing," and he
Oh, the
runs
ball's
over,
coming here.
and he's the one that tips the ball up and over.
And then the Will Washington guy catches it.
And but he apologized on Instagram, so it's all good.
That totally that makes up.
You can do whatever you want as long as you apologize on Instagram. So the coaches were like, "Well, thank you for the apology.
Yeah,
You're good." No, he's good. He's the captain this week.
Exactly.
Because he apologized on Instagram.
Hanover Horton also, their first time in the playoffs too. They've had a great season since 2014, but they host Union City, the team that beat Springport to win their 3rd straight Big 8 conference title. 2 8-1 teams, and I mentioned it on the show when we were doing our picks too, not discrediting Hanover Horton, but if you're Leslie, Cascades East was a lot tougher than the Cascades West. So coming in, if you're Hanover Horton, Grass Lake was a big test for them early in the season, and they beat them pretty handedly. But besides that, the Cascades West is Homer, who struggled, Columbia, who only won 3 games, Vandercook, Addison, who barely made it in. And then you look at Leslie, like in the Cascades East, and they have Napoleon, Grass Lake, Manchester. So this will be another big test for Hanover Horton. So I picked Union City, but I think this will be a great game, and it's good to see Hanover.
You are giving bulletin board material for everyone in the Cascades Conference this week. I like it. They're going to be playing the David Rice show in the picks, aren't they? They're like, look at this. This guy's got his own show, his own logo, and he's picking against us.
Yeah.
Wait till you see your reception from these coaches next year, too. No, I think those are legitimate picks, but I think Hanover Horton, you play the schedule that you have, right? So you can't control who you play. They've taken care of business in all but one game. I think they're the story of the year this year in high school football. Them getting to 8-0 for the first time in school history, pretty neat.
I think it's got to be them and then Leslie second. The stories for this year, and then even I would put third the way I know Napoleon's been good, but the way they were able to continue their success with the young athletes. I mean, their starting quarterback's a sophomore, and their running backs are sophomores and juniors. And the way they've put up numbers, 300-400 yards a game with their offensive line.
Best quarterback in the area this year?
Joel Cranmore, Leslie,
sophomore. Have you seen him play, Dan?
Nope.
You gotta go back, watch our last show, highlights from Leslie and Hanover.
I did not watch that game, but the game that we did, what was it, Michigan Center? You were on a break or you were out covering a different game, but you stopped by to see us.
Yep.
His first half against Michigan Center, he reminded me of a college-type quarterback. I mean, he just threw the ball so well.
And he's a sophomore.
Sees the field, just a cannon for an arm, and when he's scrambling, he's not like automatically looking downfield. He's looking downfield to see, is there an option? Is there an option? He's so
Better than late.
I didn't see late play this year. Honestly, I've only seen late play once.
Last year. First
Braden Lape actually this year led the whole state, regardless of division, in passing yards.
See, I didn't know that. So yeah. So I guess best
And
quarterback that
touchdowns.
I've seen in person this year.
Yeah.
Is how I would
Yeah.
say that. Because I mean, obviously, if he leads the state and everything, then
Yeah, I mean,
he can sing good too. I heard.
No, I never heard him. I did hear him on the sandbar on Wolf Lake, though.
Nice.
really?
Oh, yeah, he goes out there with Jason Cross.
Nice.
Never
Well,
heard about our huge party out on 4th of July.
Oh, I've
Have you?
I've heard about it.
I've been out there for one 4th of July, but I would put Braden Lape though at number one. I mean, I didn't know this until yesterday either. He led the passing yards and touchdowns.
Yeah. So we'll go with Cranmore a close second, or maybe even a distant second. But as a sophomore, watch him over the next 2 years. Leslie has a special quarterback.
Leslie, their first playoff appearance and winning record this year since 2012. They went 4-5 last year. Started 2-4 and won 2 of the last 3 games last year, carrying into 8-1 this year. Of course, first ever Cascades football championship. And they're playing a Burton-Atherton team coming down from Flint to Leslie. Burton's first playoff appearance in 10 years. They were 8-man, and now they're up to Division 7.
You can't win a high school football game if the school name is Burton-Atherton.
They must have merged.
I'm sorry. What is Burton-Atherton?
Those are the teams I played when I was.
I thought you must have made a mistake. I thought maybe that was their star running back.
There was a Atherton and there was a Burton, and then they still couldn't get enough players.
Well, because they were 8-man.
Yeah. They've been 8-man for the last 4 years until this year. And then they went all.
See if you can call their athletic director or maybe their superintendent, and let's
call them right now.
Burton-Atherton. Let's get something different.
Well, I wonder what their name is, because
Their mascot? I'm not.
have to come out.
I'm not.
Is it a hyphenated? It's a hyphenated mascot. The Burton-Atherton Rolls in Cougars.
I don't know. We'll have to do that. Maybe after this, at the end of the show, I'll have to look at.
Send a text.
and
Send us a text today.
Yep. Couple more games here. Addison, despite losing to Grass Lake at the end of the year, they still got in at 4-5, and they go to Springport. Another great story this year. Springport, they won 7 games in the last 4 years combined. They come into this year. Ben Pack coming over from Manchester, 7-2, second in the Big 8, and first playoff appearance in 6 years. But they've never won a playoff game. They have a chance to do that this week. against Addison.
If they don't do it this week, they'll do it next year because they've got a nucleus of kids that are sophomores that are phenomenal athletes, and they've played together all three sports. There's more than three sports, but baseball, football. Yeah. I mean, they've just got that core group of kids that are so good in sports, and they play for each other. They'll be fun to watch in basketball, football.
Yeah, we watched one of their basketball games last year, I think, at Michigan Center, and that's same thing. Most same kids on the football team, two younger athletes, only continue to develop and get better. Addison now in the playoffs, 7 of the last 8 years. They lost 3 of their last 4 and still made it in at 4-5. It's kind of the same situation as Jackson High. And Addison still finished 28th, I think, or 29th. So they could have maybe gotten in at a bad 4-5, 3 wins type scenario. And then Manchester going to Petersburg Summerfield. I don't think a lot of people knows where that.
I don't know where Peters.
It's by Morenci in Ohio.
Petersburg Summerfield.
Yep.
These Adams all over it right now.
They're in the Tri-County Conference. They used to be in the area with Britton Deerfield, and they're by Morenci and near Ohio. And
A lot of hyphenated names nowadays.
I know. But get this, Summerfield, they've only given up 2 touchdowns on defense in the last 4 games of the season.
Jeez.
And they're coming in to play a Manchester team that scored 46 against Grass Lake, and they scored, I think, almost 40 against Napoleon. High-powered Manchester. Coach Lindemann, full house tee. He took it from Addison to Manchester, taking on Summerfield. I know that's not 2 super local teams, but that's another game I would have liked to go see in addition to Hudson. So Manchester also 12-6 last week against Jonesville, week 9, double overtime.
So,
That's the game.
Classic
I know.
time football right there.
I think you guys did the Jonesville Center game a couple years ago, right at Jonesville, and it was like 8-6.
It was a classic.
And it was about 34 below zero.
Oh, it was so cold.
I fortunately got sick that
I
week.
did that game, I think.
Yeah.
You did.
Only because I got sick. I wasn't knowing you only got a playoff assignment because I was sick. They didn't call you.
I wish you would have had
They went down the list and they scratched off like 62 names, and then they were like, "Is this real world? We only have Gallagher left. All right, call Gallagher."
And Francis.
We'll tell him he was our first choice.
It was me and Francis.
Yeah, I watched you guys do that, and you were outside. Yeah, you were in the stands, and there was, I think, snow flurries, and it was. You guys looked cold.
Well, and remember, it's February because of the COVID.
That was the COVID year?
Yeah.
It's in February.
And I had a cold. I didn't have COVID.
Well, I had a cold after that.
I bet.
I'm literally walking back to my car, and I thought, okay, it's only another 100 yards. I can make it. I was.
You're like cold. You're like climbing up the summit of a mountain. You can do it. You can do it. And it's you walking from the press box to your car. Come on, Gallagher. You're tougher than this.
Put my oxygen tank on.
One foot in front of another.
It was that bad. That bad. I could not get warm.
I'm proud of you for making it, though.
Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah.
So Jim Francis did that game with it, actually?
Yeah,
I think so.
That
was when we were doing more than one game, right? That was
I was still a third man.
That was
It was
recorded.
play-by-play.
Yeah. So it was.
No, I thought that was live.
It was
Jonesville.
It was live, but it was our first season of being live, so we still did have the
had
other
recording
game.
games. Yeah. Yep.
That game was
Because
live.
if it was
Right.
It was live.
Maybe that's why we were outside.
Well, it reminded me of the one game I think you and Gabe Schrei did at Hanover. You called the game, I think it was you and Gabe and somebody, they did it in the stands at Hanover. They had the table set up, a basketball game.
Yeah, I think that every year we should do one football and one basketball broadcast, like straight in the student section.
In the student
In
section?
the student section. Cordon it off a little bit. Give us a little bit of breathing room.
If Noah's watching, they're looking
Hockey, I think, would be another one. Last year we tried from one end of the ice. It didn't really work too well. I hope we get that rectified. But that would be a fun one to be in the I think that would be fun to be in the crowd, don't you?
Well, yeah, I was going to say, did you know that I did a basketball game last year?
I did. I watched. You added some.
And, I couldn't ask to do another one.
Well, and you probably won't because you brought up
The Maroon team.
you tried to bring in the line play. I was like, what is Gallagher doing? There's no defense or offense.
There was no beef brigade. It's totally unnatural.
The Maroon
You
team.
would have loved for sausage, right?
Yeah.
Out at Hanover.
What's that?
There was a kid named Sausage out at Hanover. And
His
he
nickname
was
was Sausage at Hanover.
he fit on the beef brigade. You would have loved him. Everybody loved him.
He was on the football team. He didn't start, but he was on the football team at Hanover too. And his very last game on senior night, me and you, that was our last broadcast of the season too. And they put him in at the end, and he made a 3-pointer, and everybody just. But
You know, everybody loves those big guys that have the good personality and they're rooting for him to score. It was like it was a playoff game. The score was already, I mean, the game was over. It was a 20-point game.
it was a blowout. It was.
But they held on for that Sausage 3-pointer and they went crazy. It was fun.
Did they all?
I don't know how we got here.
Signs.
Well,
We're off the rails again, Gallagher.
But we were talking about Hanover, and it led to other game. But Hanover, Leslie, Springport, all hosting playoff games. If you would have told me that at the start of the year, I thought you would have thought you were crazy. And then even Addison making it in, Jackson High still making it. If you would have told me 2 weeks ago, based after they lost to Chelsea 35-0, they'd still get in. I don't know what I thought about that either.
I didn't even look at that division because I did not think Jackson High had a chance. I thought, they were done.
Right. So they're D3, Western 4, Lumen, and then D6, and then Napoleon, Hanover, Leslie 7, Springport, Manchester Division 8. Real quick before we take a break, what was your favorite game of the year that I
called? It was not Western versus Penfield last week. That wasn't at 56 to.
Well, it was my favorite
You did an excellent
favorite
job.
broadcast because we just talked
we had
about
fun.
that.
We winged it a little bit. Sorry to the parents of the reserve players that we didn't call their names or give them any of their due credit. That's our fault. We got off the rails. I don't know. I honestly enjoy every game I do, so it'd be hard for me to put a favorite in there.
You have a favorite? I know what your answer is going to be.
Go ahead.
Napoleon Rest. Like, that would have been my favorite too.
I kind of left that game with goosebumps. It was such a neat game.
How long did it take you to get to your car?
Oh,
Were you?
I park in handicap now, so
Oh, okay. So you didn't have to stop and say you can do it.
no, it was warm out, so
You were good.
the whole season. Speaking of that, the whole season's been. You haven't even needed a jacket all year.
Except the one time he was dying from the cold.
It was pretty cold.
Against
we were on the riff at Lumen. It started out at about 55 and it dropped to 45, but up there the wind is whipping.
That must have been when I was in Europe.
And I'm not very tough. Yeah, you were in Italy, I think. Yeah.
It's a small flex there on the side while we're talking about Lumen. You just
I worked for a nonprofit like that, and if I go on vacation, I go to Lake Napoleon.
It is.
That's what it is.
Napoleon's a great place.
We've turned that community into
It is, yeah.
a beautiful, thriving metropolis.
We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk. I'm not a Lions fan, but we'll talk a little bit of Lions fantasy football. My team's not doing good. Yours is.
Wait till they play.
Well,
It's like the Lions. They'll probably beat the Lions.
right. So
We will beat the Lions.
So we'll talk Lions. Maybe we'll talk a little Napoleon Township home builders, wherever I might get to. So more with Pat O'Dowd, Dan Gallagher when we come back on JTV. Welcome back here on JTV. Thanks to the Insurance Circle Agency. Of course, Dave Rice was actually on the morning show a couple days ago, last week. Find that online, jtv.tv. Adam, he dressed up for Halloween too with Andy and Jen.
The brawny man.
Yeah. I haven't watched the whole thing. Go back and watch it. So thank you to the Insurance Circle Agency. Still here with POD, Dan Gallagher, JTV Sports Commentators. Wanted to talk real quick. We have the Rec Bowl coming up too tonight, Wednesday. That's always fun. Have you guys done the Rec Bowl before?
We did.
Absolutely. That's why we don't do it now.
We had to recruit the help of my, at the time, probably 9-year-old daughter.
Yeah, Eddie.
She kept us organized and helped us with the names and everything.
The most fun game of the year.
Yeah, that was great. I love it. You're gonna.
Yep.
Yeah.
Me and Max Fritz doing that tonight. That's quickest.
Did they give you a list of, what they're going to be for Halloween and their favorite food?
I don't think we get that till right before
Right.
the game. I don't have that now.
We did get their favorite food, and yeah, it's kind of a nice time.
Favorite.
One kid liked salad.
Yeah.
I was like, what's
That's so funny because I remember that too.
Yeah.
I remember you just
That
you
really
kept
stuck
bringing
out
it
for
I
up.
wonder what that tastes like. I've never had one.
Probably still be 138 had you had a couple of salads.
Yeah.
Real quick, Detroit Lions, big game at Lambeau against the Packers.
Are you going?
I am not going. Actually, me and Austin Curtis will be at Springport Friday, and then we have our family big Halloween bingo party Saturday while we're watching Michigan get stopped by Oregon. That's not going to be fun. I'm glad I'm not going to that. And then watch the Packers lose to the Lions Sunday.
So you're a Packers fan, and you're saying you're going to watch the Packers lose to the Lions.
Yeah, I mean, I think even Jordan Love might not even play either. He's questionable. So we might have the backup. And I know the Green Bay's still 6-2, but the last 2 weeks they barely beat a bad Jacksonville team last week on a field goal by 3, and only beat Houston before that by 3. They struggled in that game. So
Any win in the NFL, this is what the coaches say is a good win. Any team can beat any other team on any given week. So if you win, who cares if it's ugly, move on. I was coming into this today assuming that you were going to be go Pack go.
well, I am, of course, but I don't.
But
I'm not super
Is this
confident.
reverse psychology, though? Because I do that a lot. I'll be like, yeah, they're going to get their butts kicked. And inside I'm like, I'm tricking the universe.
Partially, yeah.
So
Who do you got?
I have the Lions, of course.
Well, I'm not as confident in Green Bay.
Do you know the Lions were, at the beginning of the year, predicted to go 8-0?
To start,
Yeah.
and they're what 6?
They've only got one loss.
6-1.
They're 6-1, and they already beat the Vikings once, so they still have. I think they'll split with Green Bay. I don't think they'll beat. They'll beat Green Bay the
At
first.
home. So if they're going to split with Green Bay this weekend, is when Green Bay has to get it. They're
I think I'm going to be going to the one at Detroit. That's a Thursday night game.
You're setting yourself up for disappointment going to that game. That's all.
Yeah, I hate going to those night games. They've been drinking all day long. They're in the park.
They got it. They got it.
Well, it's a Thursday. People are working.
So I've never been to a Lions game when they were like a good team. I went to a couple Barry Sanders games. They weren't good those years, but I bet you it's got to be just a ton of fun to go and watch what's happening.
It's a ton of fun. It's a ton of money.
Now it is.
Yeah, highest tickets in the league.
The last
For them, I guess.
last Lions game I went to, my younger brother's a Seattle fan. Don't ask me how that happened.
How do you guys? You guys are both born and raised here, right?
Yep. Yeah.
You're Packers and he's Seattle.
Well, there's a lot of Michigan, Packers.
It's because the Lions were garbage for so long and you didn't want to root for a garbage team, probably.
Yeah, but still, my kid was, wanted to root for Dallas, and I just wouldn't feed him.
And now he's a Lions fan.
Loves him,
Yeah, and he's 250.
but he don't eat salads.
He's never had a salad ever.
But the last Lions game I went to was a couple years ago when Seattle came to Detroit, and it was like 50-40 something. We were at that, and then the game before that was Green Bay came here when Crosby missed like 5 kicks for the Packers. Of course, that's the last time I was here. And then I went to a Green Bay game, not last year. We missed out on that. Year before that was Seattle, and I think it was low, like 15-0, and it was cold. But there's nothing like being at Lambeau, really for any fan in the snow, and just the vibe of it at night.
Best sports experience I've ever. So I lived in Green Bay for a year, and went to 2 games that season. One where it was super cold, snow, so you got that full frozen tundra experience. But just it feels like a college game day. They're tailgating, Them guys that are dressed up like the Packers marching band and playing in, it's crazy. It's crazy, but it's so fun.
You know, the town.
The fans are great too.
Right. And it's such a small town that the stadium sits right in the middle, pretty much, of neighborhoods.
Ashwaubenon.
Yep. And I remember our first time there, we just parked tailgate at somebody's house, and we just walked like right across the road, and there's the field right there in the neighborhood. Yeah. So it's always fun, and we go every year too for the shareholders meeting too, and that's fun seeing like in the middle of July.
So you own the Packers? You never
technically,
told me that. You're
you buy season tickets, you're an owner.
Yeah, I love the way they do that too.
Somehow I can be
led with that. Like
I can be
10 years ago.
Well, I can be an owner and a broadcaster, but Tom Brady can't own the
10
team.
years old. 10 years ago.
Then Tom Brady though he owns part of the Raiders now. They approve that, and he's still a broadcaster, but he has so many restrictions.
He can't prepare. That's the smartest thing he's ever done.
He's not allowed to go to practice.
He's getting paid millions of dollars. He doesn't have to do anything game week. Shows up on Sunday.
No, Fox Sports is paying him
good though.
I think he's doing okay. The first week was a little rough, but I think after that he's been fine. But Fox is paying him $375 million to be a commentator, and he's not allowed to go to practice, and basically nothing to prepare during the week for the team because he's an owner.
Would that contract offer pull you away from JTV? If
$375 million?
Or would you take it to Bart and Karen and say, I'll stay if you guys can counter. I'll give you an opportunity to counter.
Would anybody pay?
Maybe you or I could fill in on it'd be the Dan Gallagher show.
That'd be one of the highlights.
Stuck in my logo. Take up the whole shirt.
I was trying to come up with a widescreen joke, but
that was a good one. That was good.
Yeah, that was really good.
Thank you. But Uncle, you got one of those?
No, if anybody offered me $375, you're going to commentate. Well, yeah, even if I didn't have to, even if I couldn't go to the practice or talk to the coach during the week.
That's the benefit of it.
Right.
I don't have to work. That was like me this year.
I'd be at home until
being the third man,
Friday or whatever.
Being the third man on the broadcast, I didn't have to do anything this year. I knew you and Josh were going to get everything done, and then I was just going to follow whatever you said. I didn't do a single thing all year to prepare.
Can we go back?
You did play-by-play one week.
Yeah, I prepared that week.
Remember when you and I always did it? You did play-by-play. Brady can't prepare for if he does the Raiders game.
Any game.
Any game.
He can't be in
because he's
competing team's facilities.
Gosh.
Right. So he can't go to practice, have any inside access during the week. He can't have any of it.
Doesn't seem right.
And he's still
an unfair advantage. When Al Davis was alive, do you think the Lions would have let him into their facility? Oh, come on in, Al.
Probably back then.
We're 0-16.
Hey, Martha.
Yeah, go ahead.
What's up, Martha?
Really quick, before we go here, just mention Lions Packers. By the way, I'm still not. I go Pack. I'm not reverse psychology though. It's gonna.
It is what it is, isn't it?
Well, we'll have our backup quarterback, so most likely. And the spread was what, 3.5? We looked earlier.
That's it.
3.5.
It'll grow, I think, through the course of the weekend.
Well,
as the
I
money
think so.
starts to go.
Usually, though, in the NFL, the spread doesn't get very high, though. Ever, I don't.
No,
think.
It'll move a couple points. I'm guessing it'll go up to 5 if Love is out.
Can I ask you a question about that? So, if you get in at 3.5,
yeah, you got it.
You're at 3.5. Now that it's at 5, they don't move you to 5. Oh, that's awesome.
But then you could bet. We're not gambling. Let's go.
No, that was just a question.
Yeah.
Of course, before we go, new executive director, Home Builders Association of Jackson. Congratulations on that. You guys just had a meet and greet too last week, right?
Yeah, we wanted to have the board of directors get out and get some community members in, and JTV covered it. Great photo album on the JTV website, photos tab. But we had a flag raising ceremony with the Vietnam vets of Jackson came out, raised the flag. The chamber came out for a ribbon cutting, and it was great.
Even Professional Tree Care made a stop there, right?
Professional Tree Care bailed us out. I didn't check the pulley system on the flag, and the vet that was going to pull it down said, "Hey, did you check the pulley system?" And I kind of laughed at him, and I didn't check it, and it didn't work. So Professional Tree Care came over, fixed it really quick. The event went off without a hitch. So,
then of course Dan Gallagher, the supervisor, Napoleon Township, ninth safest, right?
Well, it's gone up a little bit from there. But I think we had a shoplifting deal going on, so it went probably to 19. But still, out of hundreds and hundreds of townships and towns, that's pretty darn good. It's a pretty safe place.
Yeah, I'm right off Napoleon Road. Great place to be. So that Napoleon Township. Of course, we don't unfortunately have any more live games with the playoffs, MHSAA, but you can always go to jtb.tv. We'll have video highlights. I know, Adam, you'll be with Josh. You guys are at Hudson. I'll be at Springport. I think Noah's going to Hazlitt to watch Western. And then I think we'll have somebody at Hanover, too, for Union City. So jtb.tv for all of that. It sucks, though. It's unfortunate, the playoff games.
That back when we started, we could do them all up into the state or the semis. It seems like we've done a semi before, but it is unfortunate. We have, for the kids and the parents, somebody who lives in Hawaii could see the game of their grandson. It is unfortunate, sad. Hopefully we can work through it and work it out.
Right.
Down the road.
Yeah, video highlights and photos online at jtb.tv. So hopefully we get a Shot Clock Classic appearance from the supervisor again. Because I know normally you don't do basketball. So if we can get a basketball appearance from Dan Gallagher, I think that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So
I'm here for hire. To us, I absolutely knew nothing about basketball except offsides.
what?
It's the same signal. Traveling offsides.
Oh, wow.
So I
was confused for a minute.
I knew that part.
Of course, you can also see, Pat, our hockey games coming up this winter, too. Those are always fun. Jackson United versus Lumen Christi. And then, of course, we'll have baseball on JTV. And, of course, the addition of Max Fritz to our team has been great as well. So, of course, thanks to Adam and our crew and our sponsors. So that 25th season wouldn't have been possible, of course, without them and without Minuteman Sewer and Drain. So,
now that I didn't run for township supervisor, I'm up for hire. I know a little bit about hockey.
He was trying to wrap.
Women's. Oh, was he? I'm sorry, Adam.
Yeah, when he's thanking everybody, that's generally the end.
I'm just putting me out there.
so
I don't know. I mean, it was an outro.
Well, Pat O'Dowd, Dan Gallagher, JTV Sports Commentators, thanks, guys, for being here. We'll have to do this again soon, so appreciate it.
I promise.
Yeah.